So you have to check your ambition as somebody that is believing the gospel and sharing the gospel, which should be everybody that is watching me. You should not say, "Oh, that's for preachers." Everybody needs to be sharing the gospel with in your circle, with whoever you talk to. But you have to check your ambition. Why am I sharing this? Why am I sharing? Am I seeking to please men or God? Am I the servant of men or the servant of men? In fact, it says, if I was still trying to please men, I would not be a born servant of Christ. Now, notice here it says still trying to please men. Still means that there's a history. It means that there's a previous, it means that there's a time when Paul was pleasing men. But then it says, now, am I still trying to do that? So the question then we have to ask is, when was Paul pleasing men? When was Paul trying to please men? That was when he was a Pharisee under the law. Like I've said, this is an interesting contradiction because the people that minister the law, the people that minister legalism, interestingly, are the ones who are actually trying to please men. The Pharisees who talk about this observance of laws and talk about how awesome they are and how they have tithed mint and some cumin and how they have done all of this stuff and how many steps they have walked. They are the ones who are men pleasers. And when we are, this is interesting because whenever we are presenting standards for people to obey, we are men pleasers. Whenever we are teaching a message that has to do with people obeying laws so that they feel better about themselves and so that they feel that they are righteous because they have prayed a certain amount of time and fasted a number of days and read a certain number of chapters of the Bible and done all of this stuff, and so because of that they feel that they're qualified. This is pleasing men. In fact, when you are trying to fulfill the law in order to please God, what you're actually doing is pleasing yourself, because after you've done all that you've done, you feel that you are deserving, you feel that you are worthy, you are pleased with yourself, you are pleased with your performance. And anybody that has attempted to obey the law and has done some obedience knows what I'm talking about, because there's that feeling you have of fulfillment, that feeling you have that, okay, I've accomplished it, I've been faithful, I've obeyed this commandment. And this is what the Pharisees did. And Paul says this is trying to please men. It's trying to please yourself, to massage your religious ego and feel that you've given enough, you've fasted enough, you've prayed enough, you've served enough, you've submitted enough, you've done enough. And this is wrong. It says, if I did that, if I was still trying to do that, like I used to when I was a Pharisee, if I was still trying to do that, then I would not be a bond servant of Christ. It says, if I was still doing that, then that would mean right now I am not a bond servant of Christ. What is a bond servant? A bond servant or a slave. The KJV, let me see what the KJV calls it here. He said, I should not be the servant of Christ. Okay? So, but the word that Paul used there was not just a servant, it was a bond servant or a slave. A bond slave. So there was a difference between the slave and the bond slave, or between the servant and the bond servant. The servant is somebody that you hire. Today we call them an employee. Somebody that you hire and you pay for working for you. But a slave was different. A slave was somebody that that was basically your property. So the Romans would of course take young Jewish men and conscript them as their servants, and sometimes pay them peanuts to serve them and do work for them. But then when we came to a slave, of course, you know that a slave is somebody that you own, somebody that you have bought or paid for. They are unwilling. It's involuntary, but they have nothing to do. Probably they were a prisoner of war or something like that, or their parent had a debt, or they had a debt they could not pay, so they were sold to pay the debt. That was a slave. But then a bond slave, this was different. This was the person that was bound to you as your slave, willingly. So sometimes the way that one became a bond slave was if somebody was a slave and then served their time, and then their time ran out for being a slave, which meant they had to be released. If they said, no, I want to be with you, I do not want to go anywhere, I want to be your bond slave, bound to you. I don't want to be released. I don't want to be bought out or sold out. I want to stay here forever. They are a willing slave. They are a willing servant. They are a voluntary slave. They give them their life completely over to you. They submit completely over to your Lordship. They commit themselves wholly, fully to you. They have nowhere else to go. They yield to you 100%. That is what is called a bond slave. This is not somebody that you are enslaving by force. This is not somebody that is at your home because they don't have an option, because they can't run away, because they'll be killed. No, this is somebody that can run away, can leave, you've offered them freedom, and they've said, no, I don't want to go. I want to be here. I want to serve you for the rest of my life. My life belongs to you. I am yours fully. This is a bond slave or a bond servant. So Paul is saying that if I was still trying to be a man pleaser, living under the law, preaching the law, doing all of the stuff, then I would not be a bond slave of Jesus. But now, because I am a bond slave of Jesus, in other words, I have sold myself out completely to Jesus. I have presented my body to him as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable. I belong to Jesus. All of me is for Jesus. All of me belongs to Jesus. All of me, I have nowhere else to go. I have nothing else to do. I am completely sold out, given over to Jesus. This is what Paul is saying, that my entire life, my entire existence, my entire everything about me is Jesus. Jesus is my very life right now. This is what Paul is saying, that this is what it would mean for him to be a bond slave. He's saying that I belong to Jesus completely. I am no longer trying to please men. I am no longer trying to do stuff, but now I am fully under the Lordship of Jesus. I'm totally available to Jesus. Jesus is my Lord. Jesus is my God. Jesus is everything. Jesus is my life. Now, how many of us can say that we are totally surrendered, totally committed to Jesus? Most of us cannot. We have to do some more work of committing and yielding to and surrendering fully, completely to Jesus and his love and his grace, and giving ourselves over to God 100%. So this is something that we have to bear as we ponder this. So let me again read this and say, this is Paul saying, I am not seeking to be politically correct. For do I now persuade men, O God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Christ. We are not in the ministry to please men. We are not in the ministry for political correctness. We are not attempting to be politically correct and to say what people want to hear in this generation today. We are not saying what people's ears are itching for. We are not saying what is pleasing to people. We are ministering what is pleasing to God. We are sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ without fear or favor. We are sharing that which they may not agree with, but we are sharing that which is the true gospel. And this is a call to all of us who have been called into the ministry of the gospel, that we do not do it as men pleasers. We do not do it to buy the favor of men. We do not do it to please men. We do not do it to persuade men. We do not do it to grow statistically, to have big numbers, to have so many people liking us. No, we are committed to the true gospel, and we are born servants of God, Jesus Christ, and we share, we teach, we preach what he teaches us and what he shows us as the truth of the gospel. Even if nobody else is saying it, even if there's a few people saying it, even if there's so many people that are contrary to what you're saying, if it is the truth, you stay on it, you share it, you teach it, you do what you ought to do, and you do not back down and back off. This is the mandate that we have from God. Yeah. For do I now persuade men, O God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Christ, the bond slave of Christ, because my mission is to please Christ and not me. So this is verse 10. I would have gone into verse 11, but there's so much here in verse 11 and 12 that needs to have its own time. I think I will come back in our next class and we shall do verse 11 and verse 12 in our study of the book of Galatians. So thank you for studying with me. You are blessed with all blessings.